Welcome students. We are into our fourth lecture of machine design subject, and the topic which we are going to discuss today is the stress strain diagram and the mechanical properties of engineering materials. See, though this stress strain diagram student used to study in mechanics of solid subject also, but this topic is still relevant for machine design also. So once again, if you have studied this in your mechanics of solid subject, still this topic has to be discussed in the machine design subject, so that while designing also this particular concept has to be kept in mind. All the mechanical properties should be known to you, so that you can use those properties while designing any component or a machine part. So let's start our today's lecture. So what are the learning objectives of today's lecture? Our learning objectives are to apply the concept of stress strain diagram in the designing work. Second, to study about the factors considered while making stress strain diagram. Thirdly, to understand the importance of stress strain diagram. And fourth, to develop a learning about mechanical properties of engineering materials. The stress strain diagram. As you can see, basically what is stress? Stress, whenever you apply a load on a body, the body offers some resistance against that load. That particular resistance is known as stress. Basically, this is the definition of stress. Whenever you apply a load on the body, either any type of load, either tensile load or compressive load, any type of load, whenever you apply a load on the body, load can be any, it can be either tensile or compressive or shear load. So whenever you apply a load, the resistance developed in the material, the resistance developed in the object, that is known as your stress. Stress by formula can be written as stress by formula can be written as a load by area. So what we will write? You all know that stress is generally denoted by sigma, and that is equal to load. If you denote load by P, then load divided by cross sectional area A. If for example this is the specimen, and if you are applying any load on it, let the load be P, and if A is the cross section, if A is the cross sectional area of this particular object, then your stress will be equal to load divided by area. And what is the strain? This was your stress. And now what is your strain? Strain is this particular strain. Strain is what? Strain is change in length upon original length. Once again, I am making this diagram. If you apply load on it, for example, if you are applying a tensile load on it, what will happen? Its length will increase. So this increase in length, if you denote it by del, so this increase in length upon this original length, will give you the value of strain. Means the strain, we can say it is either, you can write equal to change in length upon original length, or some, in other words, you can say in change in length means del L by L. This will be what? This is your strain. Alright, so what we are doing here in stress strain diagram, generally this stress strain diagram is prepared after performing the tensile test or after performing the strength test in universal testing machine. So in universal testing machine, generally what happens? The specimen is fixed between the jaws of the UTM. The specimen is fixed between the jaws of the universal testing machine, and then load or pressure is applied. Due to this rod is elongated, and since this is a generally we use a ductile material. If we are making a stress strain diagram for a ductile material, then the rod will be elongated, and a situation will come that the rod will be broken into two pieces. So whole of this process is captured in this stress strain diagram. In stress strain diagram, we keep strain on the x-axis and stress on the y-axis. So generally when we apply load on the object, we say that stress is increasing, and if the material is elongated, if the elongation is increasing, if there is increase in length, then strain is increasing. So initially what happens when we apply load, the stress and strain, they both increase uniformly. As you go on increasing the stress, then strain also increases proportionally. But this proportional increase is up to a certain limit, and that limit is known as proportional limit. That limit is known as proportional limit. After this, if you go on increasing the stress or load, if you go on increasing the load, what will happen? Stress will automatically increase, and as stress is increased, now the relation is not proportional, but still the relation is not proportional. Strain will either increase somewhat faster rate as compared to stress, but still what will happen whenever you remove the load, from the object, from the specimen, when you remove the load from the specimen again comes to its normal condition, normal position. So this situation or this property of a material, by virtue of which it comes back to its original position, is known as elasticity. And a material has got its limit, that till a certain limit it can perform this property of elasticity. So that limit is the elastic limit. So till this point E, if you load any specimen with external load, what will happen? If you remove that load, the material will again come back to its original normal position. But if you again go on increasing the load, what will happen? Beyond this elastic limit, this E is the elastic limit. Now again, if you go on increasing the load, what will happen? Now, as compared to stress, strain will increase at a faster rate, and also the material will not return to its original position. So this situation is depicted by this curve from E to Y1. And after this Y1, a situation will come that the load or the stress applied has been decreased, but still you are getting some value, of strain. So here the curve gets dip in this way. So you get 2 points here. What do you get? You get 2 points here. One is the upper yield point, and the second is the lower yield point. This phenomena in which the material is elongated even without application of a smallest load. So that situation is known as yielding, and these 2 points depict the upper yield point, means the upper stress level point of the yielding process, and the lower stress level point of the yielding process. So these Y1 and Y2, these are the upper yield point and lower yield point. Now if again after Y2, if you increase the load, then again what will happen is its strain will increase, but up to a certain point, and that maximum point, this is the maximum limit of stress that can be sustained by the material. So this point or this stress level is the ultimate tensile strength of the material. This particular strength or the load value is known as the ultimate tensile strength value of the material. Now after this U point, again the graph dips in this way. Why it dips? Because now again if you decrease the load, still you will get elongation, means still you will get strain value. And at point F, the material is broken into two pieces. In between, what happens? Before this breaking, there develops a neck, and that neck is shortened, it is minimized, its diameter is minimized, and a situation comes when it is broken into two pieces. This is known as the necking region. Now keep it in mind that this stress strain diagram which I am telling you, which you are seeing on the screen, this is basically for what? This is basically for mild steel. mild steel. This is basically for mild steel, and mild steel is a ductile material. Therefore, you are getting this complete graph. Therefore, you are getting this complete graph. But in case of brittle materials, the graph is not this much lengthy. You will not get this much curve here. What will happen in case of brittle material? The material is not yielded. It gets broken at this point itself. There is no yielding. It will be broken into two parts. Brittle materials are those which do not yield, means which are not elongated when any tensile load is applied on it, and which is not compressed when any compressive load is applied on it. It directly gets broken into two pieces. So here in case of brittle material, if you make a graph between stress and strain, you will get a curve like this, only this much. This will be the failure, this will be the failure point, this will be the failure point, this will be the failure point. All right, this will be the failure point. So you can see, guys, you can see here the curve for brittle material. This is the curve for brittle material. This is the curve for brittle materials. Brittle materials. All right. So this was a stress strain diagram. Now moving further, first of all, what I told you, what was the proportionality limit? Proportionality limit, as we know that Hooke's law, this actually stress is directly proportional to strain. This proportionality concept was given by Hooke, and therefore it is known as Hooke's law. According to Hooke's law, within elastic limit, within this limit, within elastic limit, stress is directly proportional to strain. Therefore, you get a straight line like this. Stress is directly proportional to strain within the elastic limit. This is known as Hooke's law. All right, and stress strain relationship is linear from O to P. As you can see, from O to P, stress strain relationship is linear. It is linear. All right. And what is the proportional limit? It is the stress at which the stress strain curve begins to deviate from the straight line. Now after beyond this proportional limit P, what you will see? You will see that your curve, you will see that your graph, gets changed from a straight line to curve line. All right. P indicates the proportional limit. And modulus of elasticity, basically according to Hooke's law, stress is directly proportional to strain. Then implies that if you remove this proportional sign, you will have to keep a constant, and that constant is known as elastic constant. So you can write this above, stress is directly proportional to strain equation like this. Stress is equal to capital E into E, where E is Young's modulus. Where this capital E is what? This capital E is modulus of elasticity, you can say, or Young's modulus. Modulus of elasticity or Young's modulus. Modulus of elasticity or Young's modulus. All right. Now, as you can see, it is written here that this Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity is equal to stress by strain. One more thing, this stress by strain, if you see this triangle, if you focus on this triangle P, X and O, in this triangle, this particular distance is given by stress and this particular distance is given by strain. So if someone asks you, in this triangle, this angle theta, what will be tan theta? So tan theta will be equal to stress sigma by strain E. All right. So sigma stress by strain is also given by this tan of the angle made by this graph. So E is equal to tan theta is equal to Px by Ox is equal to stress by strain. I hope you have understood this. Now, what is elastic limit? Even if the specimen is stressed beyond this point and up to the point E, it will regain its initial size and shape when the load is removed. This I have told to you. The elastic limit of the material is defined as the maximum limit or the maximum stress without any permanent deformation. Maximum stress without any permanent deformation. Elastic limit of the material is what? It is the maximum stress without any permanent deformation. Alright, and it is denoted by capital E. This I have already told to you. Now yield strength. When the material or the specimen is stressed, when the material or the specimen is stressed beyond the point E, plastic deformation occurs and the material starts yielding. What is the reason for yielding? This is the area of yielding. So what is the reason for yielding? Actually, plastic deformation occurs. Plastic deformation. Due to this plastic deformation, the material starts yielding. Now it is not possible to cover the initial size and shape of the specimen on the removal of the load. It is not possible to cover the initial size and shape of the specimen on the removal of the load. Very difficult to recover in this position. Alright, beyond the point E, the stress increases at a faster rate up to the point Y. After this point E, when you again increase the load, strain increases at a faster rate as compared to stress. Alright, so in other words, there is appreciable increase in strain without any much increase in stress. Now in case of mild steel, it is observed that there is a small reduction in load and the curve drops down to point Y1 immediately after yielding starts. Alright, this happens only in case of mild steel, that there is small, even after you reduce the load, then also there is some yielding and you get strain value. The point Y1 and Y2 are known as the point Y1 and Y2. The point Y1 and Y2 are known as upper and lower yield points. The point Y1 and Y2 are known as upper and lower yield points. The yield strength is defined as the maximum stress at which a marked increase in elongation occurs without any increase in load. So this is basically, if someone asks you what is the yield strength, so what you will give the answer, it is the maximum stress at which a marked increase in elongation occurs without even increase of the load. Means this point Y1, after this point Y1, if you don't increase the load value, still you get the strain. So this point is known as the yield strength point. So this was yield strength for you. Now coming into the ultimate tensile strength, the stress corresponding to point U, the stress corresponding to this point U is known as the ultimate tensile strength. The strength corresponding to point U is known as the ultimate tensile strength. The ultimate tensile strength is the maximum stress that will be reached in the tension test. This is actually, you can see in the graph also, the maximum stress is at this point. It's also only this U. The maximum strength is at this point U. As you can see, the maximum strength will be at where all the other points are below this point. F, Y1, Y2, E, P, all are below this point. So this is the point of maximum strength that can be sustained by that can be taken by the specimen. So the ultimate stress is the maximum stress that can be reached in the tension test. For ductile materials, diameter of the specimen begins to decrease rapidly beyond the maximum load point U. From after this point U, the diameter of the cross section of the material that decreases rapidly, and there is a localized reduction in the cross section area, and therefore a necking is developed. As I have already told you, a neck develops in the material beyond this ultimate tensile strength point. The stress at the time of fracture is known as breaking strength. This final point, the stress at this point, this is known as the breaking strength point. Means this is actually at the point F, the material gets broken into two pieces. So the strength at that time is known as breaking strength. This phenomena, whole soul phenomena, this ultimate tensile strength, this yielding, this will not be seen in brittle materials. Brittle materials do not exhibit yield point. And again, ultimate tensile strength is considered as failure criteria for brittle material. So diagram for brittle material, as you can see, this U, this is the ultimate failure point. There is no necking, there is no yielding, there is nothing. Directly you get a graph like this between stress and strain. I hope you have understood this also. Now one more term is there, percentage elongation. So what is percentage elongation? Percentage elongation, what is percentage elongation? Percentage elongation what is percentage elongation? Percentage elongation, just a minute, let me put into the slide. Yes, now it is okay. Percentage elongation is defined as a ratio of increase in the length of the gauge section of the specimen. Gauge section means this is test section. This test section is known as the gauge section, means from here to here. This is known as the gauge length. So if it is denoted by capital L, all right. So after increasing it, if it becomes, if before increasing, if it was L naught, and when you have applied the tensile load, if it becomes L, so the percentage elongation is equal to this original L naught, final L minus original L naught upon original L naught, all right, into 100. This will give you percentage elongation. This will give you percentage elongation. So this was percentage elongation. Apart from that, now coming into some mechanical properties of engineering materials, these properties are very important to be discussed. Why? Because if they are not discussed nicely, then while designing it, you will find it very difficult to decide a material that will be convenient for that particular design which you are making, that particular product which you are making. So if you are in need of a product that has very high compressive strength, but you can if it has low tensile strength also, then also it is okay. Though your necessity is high compressive strength, then you will go for cast iron, because cast iron has high compressive strength. So in this way, you will have to you should have the knowledge of all the properties of engineering materials. So first of all, what are those mechanical properties which are important for you to keep in mind? First is elasticity. We have discussed this elasticity point. Elasticity is the ability of a material to regain its original shape and size after the deformation when the external forces are removed. All right. Steel is perfectly elastic within the certain limit. Third, amount of deformation a metal undergoes is small. Elasticity doesn't means that you are talking about only rubber. Only rubber is not elastic. Metals are also elastic, but our only difference is that the deformation is very small. But it doesn't mean that elasticity is less. All right, elasticity. Basically, what is the elasticity? It is the ability to regain the original shape when the load has been removed. All right. So the one which can take more load. All right, which can bear more load and get returned to its original position, that will be considered as more elastic. Atoms are displaced from their original position, but they don't take up the new position. This is elasticity for you. Now moving again to the next slide. Plasticity, just the opposite of elasticity is the plasticity. Plasticity is defined as the ability of the material to retain the deformation. Means if you are applying any load on the material, all right, and it doesn't return back to its original position, then that property is known as plasticity. Some materials are high on plasticity. All right, means if whenever you deform, it doesn't return to its original position. So such materials are known as plastic materials. All right, external forces deform the metal to such an extent. That that it cannot fully recover. It cannot fully recover. Some metal take up extensive deformation without fracture. All right. Atoms are permanently displaced to take new positions. Atoms are permanently displaced to take the new position in case of plasticity. Coming into the next slide, the other mechanical properties which are important are strength. What is strength? It is the ability of a material to resist without fracture all the external forces which are causing various types of stresses on the body. So basically strength is what? Strength is the ability of a material to resist the external forces without getting rupture. Just what was the second one? It was elasticity. This I have already discussed with you. Third one is plasticity. This also I have discussed. Then comes the stiffness or rigidity. What is the stiffness? Stiffness is the ability of a material to resist deformation under the action of external load. If a material resists to a larger extent, if a material resists deformation to a larger extent, then we say that the material is stiff if the material does not get bend. All right. So in that case, we say that the material is stiff or rigid. And what is the measure of stiffness? Modulus of elasticity is a measure of stiffness of the material. Modulus of elasticity is considered as the measure of stiffness. More the modulus of elasticity, more the material will be considered as stiff. More the material will be considered as stiff. And the next property of material that is important is resilience. Resilience is what? It is the ability of a material to absorb energy when deformed elastically and to release this energy when unloaded. Means what is resilience? It is the ability of the material to absorb energy when deformed elastically and to release this energy when unloaded. Now this property is very important in case of springs. Generally in a spring, what you need, that is spring should absorb energy when you compress it, when you load it, and they release energy when you remove the load. So that particular property is very important in many circumstances, many situations. So that property is known as resilience, and generally the measurement of resilience is on the basis of modulus of resilience. Resilience is measured on the basis of modulus of resilience. All right. So these were the properties. Now toughness is also an important property which has to be discussed. Toughness is defined as the ability of the material to absorb energy before fracture takes place. What is it? It is the ability of the material to absorb energy before fracture takes place. So means basically a material is considered as tough when it is resistant to any scratch. Means if it is not possible to make a scratch on a particular material, this means that that material is very much tough. Means it can absorb a lot of energy before it marks any sign of fracture on it. So if you find any object in whose surface you can't make any scratch mark, so that material will be considered as tough material. Now the toughness of a material is measured by ISO test and Charpy impact testing machines. So this is not that important for this machine design subject. The toughness is measured by a quantity called modulus of toughness. Now you can see this whole of the area under this stress strain diagram. This gives you the value of modulus of toughness, and this modulus of toughness, it tells you about the property toughness of the material. And modulus of resilience is what? This whole of the area under this till this elastic limit. This gives you the value of modulus of resilience. This is modulus of resilience. This is modulus of toughness. So I hope you have understood this both thing, modulus of resilience and modulus of toughness. As you can see, before also I have told to you that area under yes, where I was here. Now ductility. What is ductility? Ductility is the Ability of the material. What is ductility? It is the ability of material to deform to a greater extent before the sign of crack when it is subjected to tensile force. It is the ability of a material to deform to a larger extent before the showing of a sign of crack when any tensile load is applied on it. So this is also an important property. All ductile materials are malleable. However, the reverse is not true. Why it is not true? All malleable materials cannot be considered as ductile materials, but all ductile materials are also malleable materials. Malleable means if the material gets can be if the material can be made into thin sheets, if can be made into thin set sheets, then we say that the material is malleable. Mild steel is an example of ductile material. Copper and aluminium are also ductile material. Copper and aluminium are also ductile material. Now brittleness is what? Brittleness is just opposite of ductility. It is the property of material which shows negligible plastic deformation before fracture takes place. And cast iron is an example of brittle material. Now what is hardness? Hardness is the resistance of material to penetration or permanent deformation. It is the resistance to penetrate. If you can't penetrate any object, this means that that material is very much hard. Alright. So now just let's discuss some of the properties of some very important materials like cast iron. So cast iron is an alloy of iron and carbon. Basically cast iron is what? It is an alloy of iron and carbon containing more than 2% of carbon. It has more than 2% of carbon. If this alloy of iron and carbon contains more than 2% of carbon, then that is considered as cast iron. In addition to carbon, this cast iron also has some other elements like silicon, manganese, sulfur and phosphorus. Now silicon, manganese, sulfur and phosphorus. Now there is a basic difference between this steel and cast iron. Don't get confused. There is a difference between this steel and cast iron. Usually steel contains less than 1% carbon, while cast iron normally contains 2 to 4% carbon. Alright, steel contains less than 1% carbon, while cast iron contains 2 to 4% carbon. Now cast iron offers the following advantages. Cast iron offers the following advantages. What are the advantages of cast iron? Let's see the advantages of cast iron. What are the advantages? Advantage number 1. What? It is available in bulk quantity, so it is cheaper. It can be given any complex shape without involving machining operation. Means without any machining operation, just by molding process itself you can manufacture any cast iron item. So it can be given any complex shape without any machining operation on any machining tool like a lathe machine or drilling machine. Second, it has higher compressive strength. The compressive strength is high of a cast iron, so therefore it is very excellent ability. It has very excellent ability to damp vibrations, and therefore you would have seen that the base of all the machining tools are made of cast iron. Why? Because it can bear high compressive load. If you stand on it, or if the structure is made above it, then also it can bear that load, and also it is resistant, or it can damp to vibration. It is more resistant to wear. Therefore cast iron is an important item, and for designing purpose also the properties of cast iron should be known to you. Now, but since there are advantages of cast iron, there are also some drawbacks of cast iron. What are the drawbacks of cast iron? It has poor tensile strength as compared to steel. If you compare it, the tensile strength, very poor tensile strength cast iron has got as compared to steel. Cast iron does not offer any plastic deformation before failure. Before failure, there is no plastic deformation in cast iron. There is no yield point. This is also a problem. Means it will fail. Even generally in ductile material they get distorted, but they keep on working. But in cast iron there is no plastic deformation, so If it fails, then it fails completely. There is no chance of working with deformation. Third, cast iron parts are therefore not suitable for applications where permanent deformation is preferred over fracture. They are not suitable at the case where you can consider permanent deformation. It has poor impact resistance. Means if high impact load means which is coming at very high velocity, and load which is coming at very high velocity, that is known as impact load. And this type of high velocity, high speed load, if it strikes cast iron, then it cannot sustain that particular load. So it has poor impact resistance. Then after comes the machinability of cast iron. Now the machinability of cast iron is poor compared to the parts made by steel. Machinability of cast iron is poor compared to the parts made of steel. Steel parts can be machined easily in the machine tools. Cast irons are classified on the basis of distribution of carbon. Now cast irons also have been subdivided into many types on the basis of the carbon distribution in its microstructures. The three popular types of cast iron are grey cast iron, malleable cast iron and ductile cast iron. Grey, malleable and ductile. Grey, malleable and ductile. Malleable cast iron, ductile cast iron and grey cast iron. Alright. So now coming into the MCQs, multiple choice questions. Question number 1, tensile strain is, what is tensile strain? We all know that tensile strain is what? Strain is change in length upon original length. We all know that if someone talks to you about a strain, it is change in length upon original length, means del L by L. But here if someone asks you about tensile strain, so in case of tensile load you get tensile strain. A tensile load tends to increase the length. So in that case this change in length will be known as, in case of tensile strain, the change in length is known as increase in length. So increase in length upon original length, this will give you the value of tensile strain. Second comes the Young's modulus of elasticity. Now Young's modulus of elasticity is what? As I have already told you, stress is directly proportional to strain, and when you remove this proportional sign you put a constant here which is known as modulus of elasticity, Young's modulus of elasticity. So the formula becomes your stress by strain. This is your Young's modulus. Alright. So here what will be the answer? In all the options which you are seeing here, the correct answer is the tensile stress upon tensile strain. Why we have not taken the other any term? Because the shear stress upon shear strain, this is not Young's modulus, this is modulus of rigidity, and therefore this is not the correct answer. In all the other options there is shear strain written, and shear strain is not considered in Young's modulus. In Young's modulus is either tensile stress upon tensile strain or compressive stress upon compressive strain. Now coming into the next MCQ. Hooke's law is applicable within, as I have already told you, according to Hooke's law, stress is directly proportional to strain. As I have already told you that according to Hooke's law, stress is directly proportional to strain. Stress is directly proportional to strain, but this happens up to a certain limit. And what is that limit? As I have already told you through graph also, that this happens up to a certain limit. The stress is directly proportional to a certain limit, and that limit is known as elastic limit. So answer option A is the correct option. Coming into the next one, compressive strain. So compressive strain is what? In compressive strain, decrease in length upon original length. This will give you decrease in length upon original length. This will give you the value of compressive strain. This I have already discussed with you. Actually compressive strain comes from compressive load, and compressive load decreases the length. Therefore decrease in length upon original length is the compressive strain. Then comes other one. What is the other one? Other one is this one, resistance. The fifth MCQ. What is the fifth MCQ? Resistance of a material against external force is known as, which is the property, which the name of the property, resistance of material against any external force. This property is strength. Strength is what? Basically resistance of a material against any external force. So C is the correct answer. Now modulus of rigidity is what? Modulus of rigidity, as I have already discussed with you, modulus of rigidity is basically it is used in case of shear stress. So modulus of rigidity is the ratio of shear stress upon shear strain. Ratio of shear stress upon shear strain. If you write shear stress by tau and gamma by strain, so tau by gamma, shear stress by shear strain, will give you the value of modulus of rigidity. So option C is the correct answer. Moving further, coming into the seventh MCQ. What is the seventh MCQ? The property important in component when the component is forged, rolled or extruded is. Now here, what should be the correct answer? In my opinion, as we have already discussed, if any material can be beaten into thin sheets, then their property is known as malleability. So answer 1 is the correct, option 1 is the correct answer. Coming into the 8th MCQ. Property important in components when the component is formed or drawn is known as ductility. Ductility is basically what? If a material can be drawn or formed, if a material can be elongated and it gets elongated, then in that case that it is known as ductile material. So option C is the correct answer. Then resistance of any material against external force, that is known as stiffness. Resistance against external force, this is known as stiffness. So moving further, the 10th, we have included here 12 MCQs. The 10th one is which? 10th one, let's see into the 10th one. What does the 10th MCQ say? Slow and progressive deformation. Now this is new one. Slow and progressive deformation of a material with time under constant stress. Means if you are keeping any material at any stress for a long period of time, then there undergoes some slow and progressive deformation, and that slow and progressive deformation is known as creep. So this second is the correct option. Option B is the correct option. Dead or static loads are what? They are not fluctuating loads. Fluctuating loads are basically those loads whose magnitude or direction changes with respect to time. Alright, whose stress value changes with respect to time. So those are known as fluctuating load. And what are static load? Static load does not change with respect to time. Load does not change, stress does not change with respect to time. So static loads are non-fluctuating loads. Static loads are non-fluctuating loads. The last one, stress is what? Basically it is an external force, internal resistive force, axial force, radial force. As per the definition which I have told to you, stress is basically what? Stress is the internal resistance force. So B is the correct option of this 12th question. So I hope you have got a well understanding of each and everything here. These were the MCQs that were used for testing the knowledge which we have discussed. I hope everything is clear to you. All the concepts given by me are clear to you. So what I have told you, first of all, stress strain diagram. The whole understanding of stress strain diagram is very important for you all. Then all the points, this elastic limit, proportional limit, yield is point, ultimate tensile strength point, and failure point. These all are very important for you to keep in mind. Then after what? Then after mechanical properties like elasticity, this you should know, plasticity. Then other mechanical properties are there like stiffness, resilience, strength, toughness, alright, ductility, brittleness, hardness. Then cast iron properties are very important because cast iron is used very frequently. Many times cast iron is used. So cast iron properties you should know. What is cast iron? It is either an alloy or a pure metal. You should know. Then there are some drawbacks. If the cast iron has some advantages, then there are drawbacks also. So there are some drawbacks. Then MCQs we have discussed to get the understanding. Now if you want the study material regarding this particular video lecture, so there are some reference books which have been used. What are those reference books? These are the reference books, in which the main reference book which have been used is the Design of Machine Element by V.B. Bhandari. It is of Tata McGraw-Hill publication. All right. The other books are also there. Elements of Machine Design by N. Pandya and Saha is there. Then you can use Shingley Machine Engineering Design book by Shingley McGraw-Hill publications. So these are the book. I hope you have got good understanding of the whole lecture today. So thank you. We will again meet in the next lecture and we will discuss some new topics. So thank you, students. Have a nice day.